is a tangled mess with her torn up dress. Got big blue eyes under the messy disguise.
All right, so welcome back to the Singing Green Thumb vlog. I have a really super exciting week for content, and also because I have Harriet Hansen here. And of course my son Rex. So Harriet Hansen is a master gardener, certified master gardener, both in the States and in Canada. Plethora of knowledge, and many of you have already heard me talk about her in many of my blogs and saying how she's going to be coming back soon. So she's been one of my main teachers, along with my grandmother, and the things that I've learned along the way, but primarily her. And she just got back from Texas a few weeks ago, has finished her quarantine, and now we are back to our dynamic duo of gardening. So this week we are talking about fertilizing. A lot of you have been asking about my big broccoli. How did I get that big broccoli? What Rex calls Harriet Nini is going to tell you what she told me, how to get those monster head broccolis and how to get everything else looking like this in her garden. So we're going to be talking about our tea manure and our weed manure and a few other things to do with manure.
I've been gardening for over 50 years. I learned from my grandmother, and as a teenager, I gardened with my folks. But my main teacher was my grandmother, and then I took the Master Gardener course, and I also have Horticulturalist 1, 2, and 3 from Guelph University. I finished that in 1994. Now, we're going to speak about manure tea and also wheat tea. I have a concentrated container in my hand here of wheat tea. I fill up a 5-gallon pail full of water in my garden, and I just keep adding as I weed. I put the weeds into the container and
let it rot.
Let it rot. And it does smell at times, but if you keep it fairly well under and keep using it. So I have a margarine container here, a tub, which is about, what, 2 pounds? And I will put that into a 5-gallon pail of 3/4 water. So I'd say we got about 4 gallons of water in there, and a container of the tea.
So who knew you could use your weeds to actually fertilize your garden, not just take over your garden? And I've been doing this in my garden too, and let me tell you, when you let the weeds rot in that first, just let them rot and turn gross and stinky and yucky and dark, and then add it to the other water until it's the color of tea, not coffee, right?
Right. Yes. We want a light tea color, and maybe this isn't quite where we want to be yet, so we're just going to go back to our main one, and we're going to just add a little bit more. So we are going to do it by color. Color, and now, as you see, we have more of a green. We're still not where we want to be. So we probably could have used 2, but I've diluted this, and this pail's been going on the go since July 1st. So when I planted the transplants of the watermelon transplants, that was on July the 3rd. They were just 2 leaves. We're at the 22nd of July right now, and these watermelon and cantaloupe have received the wheat tea and some manure tea, which we'll speak later of, for watering once a day. So I haven't watered these today, so we will water them, and we'll just put 2 of those containers around those plants. So that is your green wheat tea manure. And if you have some plants that are suffering light nitrogen, this is where you want to fortify it with. And at this stage, we want our watermelon and our cantaloupe to vine out. As you can see behind me, these were very small. They hadn't gone out of their rings at July 1st. This has all happened since July 1st. Cheyenne put these in the ground at the end of May, correct?
No, mid-June.
At mid-June. And they were just transplants then. So this is what's happened since then.
All right, so now what we're doing is no longer with the weed tea, we're doing manure tea. This is chicken manure?
Chicken manure, half chicken manure, half horse manure.
Okay, horse and chicken manure.
I was able to get both, which sometimes you can, but you can use either. And you can even add green weeds if that you only want to do one. So I would take 2 of these containers, the same one that we used before. And just put it in a 5-gallon pail, 2 of those. And then you could do the same procedure that you did with the wheat tea.
Wait till it rots a little bit,
Yes.
digests a little bit, turns colors a little bit, and then just dump that water, dilute it of course to the color of tea. That is the important thing. Make sure it's tea color, not coffee color, or you might over fertilize your plants. And then water your plants accordingly. Just make sure, like if you want to, I'll let you explain the difference between what kind of vegetables, like you wouldn't use this on a tomato plant.
That's correct. At the stage where tomato plants are, and when you're setting fruit, at that stage you want to add the magnesium and the phosphorus and the calcium. You don't want nitrogen, because nitrogen will make them grow tall and create a lot of greenery. We want to keep the greenery at a small stage.
So for this particular one, again, this is with working with if you remember back when I was talking about the transplanting into your garden, I had put chunks and chunks of raw chicken manure underneath all of the squash plants when planting them. Well, hope you still have some on hand, because here is another use for it.
We also have, you put the booster mix of the magnesium in the, and this garden soil, gardening on here for 50 years, we have something called club root. So we have to protect our cabbage, and we experienced our cabbage wasn't developing, and it also had a brown heart in it. So we are adding boron as borax into our soil, so we don't get the brown heart in our cabbage and broccoli and the Brassica family. So we also put calcium underneath, calcium carbonate in the hole at planting time to prevent this club root. This controls club root. But now we're at the stage that we figure it has used up most of all our good nutrients. It's not starving yet, but we're going to do a booster. You saw Cheyenne's beautiful head of broccoli that she just posted. It is amazing. It just works wonders.
And lots of you have asked, what do you do? What are you doing to make your broccoli so big? A lot of you have said you get little heads and then they go to seed right away. Well, it's because just like humans, we need regular amounts of food from time to time. And I think a lot of people forget that, partway through the summer, you need to boost your garden. So it's not just the boost you put under your plants, it's what you're doing throughout the year too.
But when we do this to our plants, we are consuming this. Now we are benefiting from what we are feeding the plants.
Yes.
So
that's why we do organic stuff, where we don't want to be ingesting chemical stuff, so we try to stay away from chemical fertilizers.
That's right. And by adding chicken manure, we know we have a bit of biological activity that we're introducing into our soils. So even though we're sharing, you see we have holes in our stuff, but our plants are suffering from that. We have a grasshopper infestation this year. But what we're going to do now, we're going to lay this chicken manure right around the plant. Go ahead, Cheyenne.
Yeah,
I'll do this one.
I'll do this one.
If you think about it, and when we're doing plants, as far as your plant puts out leaves, they also put out roots. So you see that we are not just putting it at the stem, we are putting it out further from the stem. So what we want to also do is, here we have sphagnum peat moss. We are going to surround the plants with sphagnum peat moss.
And this goes with what I blogged about last week, or 2 weeks ago, putting the sphagnum to help hold the moisture and control the temperature.
And also what will help is when we water, we will be continuously feeding, because it's going to help hold that water there to dissolve that chicken manure and feed at a steady rate. So this will probably be our last feeding for these guys. So we will have to do this next week to our Brussels sprouts, and we will do a blog on that.
Yes. So I know we're not going to probably show them the tomatoes, but when we're talking about tomatoes, because tomatoes and cucumbers, anything with the fruit, they get a different type of fertilizer.
I want to use that over there.
When you're trying to grow the stem on all our plants, we do give them a lot of high nitrogen. We're not producing fruit on cauliflower, broccoli, the Brassica family. So that is why we're doing the chicken manure and boosting. You would not do this to tomatoes because you will get a lot of growth. We would rather you use some either calcium-based, phosphorus and potash and magnesium. But the calcium also prevents blossom and rot. Okay, I think we're done. That does our blog for this week.
Yeah.
And here's our little helper. He has.
Don't say hi, Rex. Don't say hi.
Just
Hi.